In the year 2016, during the Thanksgiving season, Michael Guy Jr. and his sisters convened alongside their parents, Joel and Lisa Guy. The family's gathering took place within the cozy embrace of their two-story dwelling, situated on a meticulously maintained corner lot on Goldview Lane in Knoxville, Tennessee. Joel, who had recently retired from his role as a pipeline engineering designer, shared a loving partnership with Lisa for over 3 decades. Alongside his daughters from a previous marriage, Joel and Lisa had welcomed their son, Michael Guy Jr., into the world in 1988. This particular holiday season would stand as a poignant memory, marking their final shared celebration within the walls of their cherished family abode. Amidst this festive occasion, the couple had taken the significant step of selling their Knoxville residence. Lisa was about to retire, and both she and Joel Sr. were getting ready to move into Joel Sr., his late mother's mountain home, which was 90 miles away in Burgonsville. The family was excited about reuniting there for Christmas next month. The parents said their goodbyes to their daughters who lived in Tennessee and planned to say goodbye to their son Joel on Friday of that week. He was going back home to Baton Rouge, where he had been living for 10 years and depended on his parents' financial help. Interestingly, Joel had talked with their daughters about their plan to stop supporting Michael Guy Jr. financially after the Thanksgiving gathering. It's not clear if Joel and Lisa managed to tell their son about this change in their support plan. Lisa had a job at Jacobs Engineering in Oak Ridge, where she worked as a human resources account payable administrator. She was set to retire, and that day was supposed to be her last day at work. However, Lisa's co-workers became concerned when she didn't show up for work on Friday, November 25th. After trying to call Lisa multiple times and receiving no response, her co-workers grew concerned. They decided to involve the police and ask them to check on Lisa's well-being at the guy's residence. Something seemed unusual, though. The house was up for sale, yet there was no lockbox for real estate on the front door. When they peered inside through the front door, they spotted grocery items like ice cream and sausage just left on the floor in the entrance area. The police officers circled around to the back of the house and observed a strange chemical smell. Heat coming from the house. By opening one of the guy's cars parked in the driveway and using the garage door opener, the officers gained access to the house. Upon entering the house, the officers found that the thermostat had been set to a high 90 degrees. As they moved further in, they came across a table holding both Joel and Lisa's wallets, with a sledgehammer resting on top. Nearby, another table held long guns. Upon entering the kitchen, the officers passed the groceries they had noticed earlier from outside. Inside the kitchen, a stock pot was boiling on the stove. Later investigations would reveal that the pot contained Lisa's decapitated head. Continuing their search, the officers proceeded up the stairway where the sound of a barking dog caught their attention. They discovered the dog confined in a bedroom. As they looked down the hallway, a distressing scene met their eyes. Blood-smeared walls and Joel's dismembered hands strewn on the floor with significant bloodstains on the carpet. Despite the horrifying sight, the officers pressed on in their search. In one of the bathrooms, they made a grisly discovery: the dismembered remains of both Joel and Lisa placed inside plastic tubs filled with a homemade acidic solution. Additional investigators arrived on the scene and surveyed the second-floor area of the crime. Lisa's clothing was found nearby, having been removed from her body. Adjacent to it was a suitcase containing a note mentioning an Ace Hardware store and a reference to sewer line cleaner. The condition of the home was so perilous that the investigators had to don hazmat suits to safely process the crime scene. An officer who was present described the situation as the most horrifying experience in law enforcement and in life that he had ever encountered. Major Michael McLean of the Knox County Sheriff's Office told the Washington Post, "Usually, there's a motivation behind it. In this case, we just don't know what that is." The motive would soon become evident. With no shortage of physical evidence, the FBI and East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office placed Michael under surveillance after the crime scene was discovered. His motivation would quickly become apparent. It was money. Michael was arrested a day after the bodies were discovered and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, felony murder, and abuse of a corpse. Michael graduated from the Louisiana School for Math, Science, and the Arts in 2006. He had never been employed and was entirely supported by his parents. In fact, Lisa's friend said she tirelessly worked only to give her son most of her paycheck. Michael spent 1 semester at George Washington University, then attended Louisiana State University, supposedly training to become a plastic surgeon. He was living in Baton Rouge right up until the time of the murders. The FBI arrested Michael outside his East Baton Rouge Parish apartment Tuesday as he walked to his car in the complex parking lot. When the police talked to Michael, he said he had been at his parents' house during Thanksgiving. He didn't say why he did it, but he mentioned talking to them about money. During his trial, Michael's lawyer, Leslie Nacios, explained more details about the killings. The state lawyer said this crime scene was different from others because of its disturbing nature. They warned the families and people in the courtroom that if they felt very upset, they could leave. While Michael sat in court, looking ahead without much expression, Nacios began to describe how Joel was killed. Nacios said that Joel had been hurt very badly, with 42 cuts that were so hard that they left 12 marks on his ribs. These cuts ranged from small scratches to deep injuries. The attack hurt his lungs, kidneys, and liver a lot. He also had a serious wound on his shoulder, and a part of the weapon that hurt him got stuck in his muscle. Then Joel's hands were severed at the wrists, his arms severed at the shoulder, and legs removed at his hip. According to court records, his foot was severed at the ankle. Nacios said Joel had fiercely fought for his life. After the murder, his clothes were taken off and left on the floor. According to court papers, Lisa was stabbed 31 times, causing 21 severe injuries, stab wounds to the buttocks, and severed 9 of her ribs. Her clothing was cut off her body and left on the floor. Her arms were severed at the shoulder and her legs cut below the knees. Their bodies were placed in 2 45-gallon containers with a mixture of drain cleaner, bleach, hydrogen peroxide, sewer line cleaner, and other chemicals trying to quickly dissolve their bodies in the homemade acid solution. Authorities believe the couple was killed sometime between Friday and midday Saturday. This crime scene was so terrible that state lawyers called it a terrible mix of human remains. Police found a notebook filled with Michael plans in his parents' Knoxville home. Shockingly, he wrote a list of things to do prior to the murders, along with noting items to bring with him, including a blender and a food processor. Michael listed items like a sledgehammer and killing knives that he needed to murder his parents, as well as a plan of where and when to kill them. Investigators would later find receipts showing Michael bought the chemicals at a Walmart in Knoxville. When his car trunk was opened in Louisiana after the arrest, he had a meat grinder in the trunk. Michael carefully listed the methods he would use to kill his parents, then destroy evidence. The notebook also talks about how he would cut up their bodies. According to Wikipedia, Michael sustained several cuts to his hands in the assault on his father, including a cut on his left thumb. After the murders, he is seen at Walmart's first aid section, getting ointment and bandages. He also purchased isopropyl alcohol and hydrogen peroxide. On Sunday, he drove back to Baton Rouge to be treated at a student clinic, with the intention of returning to Knoxville to finish his diabolical deeds. Michael had one motive. He listed his parents' assets in detail, and his notes provide some insight as to how he would achieve gaining his parents' property to include life insurance, the Knoxville house, the Surgoinsville home, car, sous vide boat, and an old truck. Lisa's life insurance was worth $500,000. A motive as old as the sun. But what kind of monster would so callously and brutally murder his own parents? Michael's trial lasted 4 days, and there were more than 700 pieces of evidence and 27 people who talked about what happened. On October 2, 2020, Judge Stephen Sword said that Michael would spend his whole life in prison. He said this was the worst way to treat a dead body he had ever seen in his 25 years of work. Michael was found guilty of many crimes, including hurting and killing his parents. The judge told him that he thought he was smarter than he really was, and that he did the crime in a very stupid way. Michael won't be able to leave prison for 130 years. But even after that, the judge said that 300 years wouldn't be enough to understand how bad his actions were.